I suppose that's rather redundant. Economic news really is depressing.
We are here about the truth, not that fake reality dispensed by your television.
There should be a modest uptick in GDP in either the fourth quarter of 2009 or the first quarter in 2010. Sounds good, but stay with me. This will mark the end of the current 20-month-long recession, but not the end of the crisis. The blip in growth doesn't mean that troubles are over or that the economy is on its way to recovery. It simply means that Obama's $787 billion fiscal stimulus is beginning to kick in, giving a boost to consumer spending and generating a short-term economic activity. Regrettably, when the stimulus runs out, the economy will slide back into negative territory. That's because the U.S. consumer has crossed an important threshold and no longer has the ability to drive the economy through debt-fueled consumption. The data indicates a critical change in consumer behavior which portends a shift away from the current economic model for growth. It's a whole new ballgame. From the mid-1980s to 2007, the ratio of debt to GDP rocketed from 165% to over 350%, more than doubling in that period. The build-up for personal debt follows the exact same trend line as the aggregate profits from the financial sector. They're opposite sides of the same coin. Financial institutions increase profitability by expanding credit and inflating asset bubbles, but not by allocating capital to productive enterprises. Speculative bubble making is Wall Street's method of shifting wealth from workers to the investor class. It never fails. It's the reason why 42 states now are facing budget shortfalls. Unemployment has risen to 9.5%. And $45 trillion has vanished from the global equities markets. Financialization has created a global crisis, crushed consumer demand, increased systemic instability, and put the economy into a nosedive. In the last decade, the shifting of wealth from one class to another has greatly accelerated due to the deregulation and the Fed's low interest rates. Stagnant wages have forced reluctant participants into the market seeking a better return on their savings, while lax lending standards and easy credit have seduced workers into increasing their personal debt load. All of this has been done by design to ensure the profits for the few over the well-being of the many. The subtext of the financial crisis is class warfare, a fact that mainstream economists would rather ignore than invoke the musty imagery of disheveled revolutionaries in Soviet-era repression. Nevertheless, during the Bush years, the chasm between the rich and the poor widened to levels not seen since the Gilded Age. Now the top 1% of wealth holders own more than twice as much as the bottom 80% of the population. All the real gains in national income, total net worth, and overall growth in financial worth have gone to the same 1%. But the strides in personal enrichment have come at a great cost. The U.S. consumer, long considered an inexhaustible resource, is tapped out. Without job security and access to easy credit, consumer spending will slow, prices will fall, demand will flag, and the economy will tank. There won't be a recovery because the pre-crisis levels of consumption will not return. That much is certain. Sustainable growth requires higher wages and longer working hours, neither of which are likely anytime soon. The economy is headed for a protracted slowdown with persistently high unemployment and growing social unrest.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, anyone that looks at this, put away what the TV's told you, what your neighbors say, and look at the actual facts of the matter. We cannot have a recovery, as you have said and I've said, Brian, without jobs. There's no manufacturing. Everything's been exported. We're in a slow downward spiral. It doesn't matter how much money they throw at this. That's just laying more debt on the American people. Japan, China's getting tired of financing our massive debts, financing their own oppression. And they try to come out. We see it each week. We're going to do a report here just in a moment where Obama on the U.S. economic crisis, the fire is now out. Well, it might have been a little fire. Now we're into a towering inferno. This thing can only get worse. Our dollar's being devalued, and Show me the jobs. Remember the Wendy's commercial, show me the beef? Show me the jobs. Where are the jobs? That's the only way to turn around, not a recession, but a depression, which is what we're in.
And like this article goes into, I mean, all of the prosperity in which, the American society has held for the last several decades has been based entirely on debt. It's consumer-driven debt, and we've reached the point where that's just no longer possible.
Exactly. That's a great point. And the government tells us not to save, as we pointed out, but to spend our way out of this, model ourselves after the biggest debtor nation in the history of the world, which, as we just reported, are going to throw $23 trillion to the wind on this. And as I will repeat myself once again, this is being done by design. It's not by accident. The Federal Reserve banking system is who is empowering our federal government. That should be obvious to everyone now with what's transpired since last October. There's no accountability. They have looted the Treasury, and they are taking us into a world financial global consolidation of power, and it's problem, reaction, solution. The problem is they imploded the economy. The reaction of the people is do something. They're doing it. They're looting us. And then the solution is going to be something that we would have not accepted, but we will now find acceptable because we've been through the problem and the reaction.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you say, it's all about consolidation, about power. Finance essentially is power. If you have the money, you have the power. That's what it's all about. It's not that these people are necessarily greedy. They want the power. They want the control. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, give me control of a nation's currency, and I care not who writes the laws.
That's exactly right. And I was talking to a gentleman, and he was saying, these things you say, they've never been done before. Yes, they have. FDR did this when he changed the currency in 1933. Before that, your dollar said silver certificate. You could take it to the bank. You could get $1 worth of silver. After that, it was the Federal Reserve note. It was nothing but a fiat piece of currency. They took us off the gold standard in 1971. They enacted the Emergency Banking Act, which made it illegal for the American people to have gold and silver. You've been robbed before. This is not the first robbery, but this is the biggest. This is not going to be the Great Depression. It's going to be the final depression from the looks of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of depression going around, I'll tell you that. But, I mean, this is what the founders of this country also just kept warning us over and over and over again. Thomas Jefferson, of course, Andrew Jackson fought the central bank relentlessly, and he was actually survived an assassination attempt as a result of that. Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, all these people unsuccessfully, in many cases, tried to fight the central bank.
And the only thing that's keeping us from a complete dominating tyranny is the fact that the American people are armed to the teeth. If they false flag that away and justify taking our guns, we are done.
And just since Barack Obama is, if you can call it, won the election last November, 1 million guns have been sold, and that sends a clear message to those in power that the people are wishing to retain their liberty.
Yes, and gun sales, ammunition sales through the roof, and we've seen all kind of end rounds at the Second Amendment. We've reported on it here. Quickly, before we come up on the break, as what Brian was reporting, this was reported on the AFP. Obama on U.S. economic crisis, the fire is now out. U.S. President Barack Obama defended his administration's response to the economic crisis over the last 6 months, declaring the fire is now out. Unbelievable. I think we have stepped back from the abyss. I think we have put the fire out, he said in an interview with PBS. According to a transcript released by the TV station, the analogy I use sometimes is we had this beautiful house and there was a fire. We came in and we had to hose it down. The fire is now out. But what we've discovered is we need some new tuck pointing. The roof's leaking, the boiler's out. Oh, and by the way, we're behind on our mortgage, Obama said. The work that remains will be undertaken with the limited resources that are available and will take some time, Obama said. So again, they're always trying to report some good news, like we're just almost out of the woods, where the light is at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is the front of an oncoming train.
I used to think, President Obama was a good speaker, well articulated his words, but lately
he reads a nice teleprompter.
Yeah. Well, not even all the time though. Remember, it started to repeat, and he just started to repeat what he had just stated.
Yeah, a lot of what